If you've come across this video and my profile, then that means that you're searching for answers. Now, personally, it doesn't matter to me one bit if you like or subscribe this video. It's honestly not what it's about. Now, we're going to talk about some concepts here, and it's going to be up to you to decide whether they coincide with what you've been feeling and thinking or not. Maybe you'll take a tidbit or two and move on with the rest of your journey trying to figure out your own answers. Just chew the meat up and spit out the bones, I guess. But if you're like me, you've been pretty much analyzing this whole problem that we've been having. I guess what people would refer to as an event, or some cataclysm, or a shift in reality, or what the newer people call this Mandela Effect. I can tell you what the Mandela Effect is. It's basically just a series of clues that lead us up to the ultimate findings and the ultimate answer. The Mandela Effect is just a clue. All it does is just showing you that things have changed, sometimes on a micro level, but for other people, like me and maybe you, they've changed at a macro level. And I think the ones that they've changed at a macro level are the ones that observe, that have seen that there's a problem, and we observe and watch and look for the bigger changes. Now, this all started for a lot of us a little while ago. I can't really say if it's been years for some, or days, or whenever it was that it took hold of you. For me, it's been about 3 or 4 years of noticing. Not to say it probably hasn't happened before that, but when I really noticed the changes, it was about 3 to 4 years ago, and that kind of started my journey into this whole thing. So here's what I can tell you. Things have become different. I can notice first in nature that things have become different. I watch the trees blow in the wind, and they don't act right. They do not assume the role of a free-flowing tree in the wind. It's more calculated. It's more simulated to something that looks at me and says, hey, how can I make him see this as a tree blowing in the wind? It's no longer an organic act or dance or anything. Trees act different. And most of you wouldn't notice that, except for the ones that actually pay attention and they observe and they remember how trees used to act. The next thing I would say is birds and a lot of other animals, but I'll use birds in this one. Birds, if you really watch them and watch their patterns, they don't act like they used to. The way that they fly, the way that they take wind, the way that they drop down out of the sky and land, the way that they hop from branch to branch on a tree, the way that they just stop and they look around, the way that they chirp is almost patterned. The way that they do everything is it's almost as not as free will. Again, it's like something that looks at me and says, how should I make a bird appear to the sky in order to try to convince them that it's a bird? It's almost the same, but it's a little bit off. I think that, there's a lot of videos about, things being the same, but a little bit off. Like the whole, reverse engineering of this and then showing it back to you in a scale that you would almost buy, but not quite. The next things that I have noticed are the way that the clouds move in the sky. Clouds are different now than they have been. And a lot of people can say, well, you've got, the chemtrails. And the chemtrails have done a lot of things with the clouds and patterned them different and added and subtracted and done all kinds of things, and chemtrails are the reason for the clouds. But no, you know, in the sky you have wind and you have crosswind and different, you know, jet cycles of wind and, you know, everything else. So a cloud can float through the air and then be twisted into and morphed into something else. Hence why we used to say, hey, look at that cloud, it looks like a duck, and then a minute later it looks like a rock or something else, because the wind has come and manipulated the cloud again. Now the clouds just kind of sit there. They're kind of artificial, they're stale. They're like a stale version of what a cloud used to be. They no longer move right. They no longer stretch and breathe and you know, climb up higher because of the thermals. You know, clouds are not set anymore necessarily at different levels. You know, and you really have to watch that in order to understand what I mean. Not to mention, the next thing would be the sky. The sky is a lot different. It doesn't have the depth that it once did. And, you know, again, you could say, you know, it's the chemtrails or whatever they're putting in the sky. It's kind of changed the color a little bit and, you know, changed a lot of things. But the sky is not right. And then that leads us into the sun. Now, there's a lot of videos about, and, you know, a lot of people talking about the sun, you know, is no longer yellow. It's now white. Now, I don't ever remember a white sun when I was growing up. You know, I remember a yellow sun. And again, we can keep reverting back to those chemtrails and saying, well, the chemtrails or whatever else is in the sky is, you know, and pollutants and everything else is putting kind of a filter over the sun, and it's making it appear white. And it's also throwing off a lot of UV rays now that we, you know, didn't have. I mean, if you're out in the sun in the summertime now, you almost get instantly burned. You know, it's not like how it used to be where you could be, you know, outside for a matter of hours and then you might get burned. But now you actually feel your skin burning as soon as you go outside. I know this, I'm out in the sun a lot in the summertime. It's part of my job. You know, it doesn't come over you like a warm blanket anymore. It's just, it's a lot different. It burns. It's almost like the difference, you know, the way that I kind of see it, it's like the difference between an incandescent light that throws off a lot of yellow light versus an LED light that is just, you know, this whitish, more stale, vibrant light. It's changed a lot. And I think a lot of us have noticed that, haven't we? That, you know, those aspects have changed. They are not once like they once were, where we could stare up at the sky and we would see depth, not only in the sky itself, but we would see the different layers of clouds and how they kind of swirl around slowly and they move, you know, and then that yellow sun out there giving us a feeling. And the sky had depth, but now it just seems like a recreated palette of something that used to be. Now, we don't really pay a lot of attention to this anymore, and a lot of people don't really go out and look at this anymore because, again, we do not go outside. We stay inside. We have, you know, our laptops, our regular computers, our smartphones, TV. We have about 1,000,001 different distractions that keep us from going outside. You know, when we were kids, going outside, you know, was a normal part of our day. If we were stuck inside, that meant you were punished, and you know, all we wanted to do was go outside. Nowadays, it's the actual reverse. Something has come in and engineered a world where we never go outside and really look at these changes. Most people are content with coming home and getting on Facebook or Instagram or anything else, video games or YouTube or whatever you have, and just block out the day. It's a good distraction and a good escape. But the one thing that I think about a lot is how fast this type of technology came about. I remember, not too long ago, about 15, 16 years ago, back when, the day of DSL modems for internet was around, I had a small computer and we could go on the internet. And it was a little bit of a challenge. It wasn't that great, but it was, hey, at the time it was pretty cool. But look how far it's come. I mean, we didn't even have, real easy to manage cell phones at the time. A lot of us just had pagers and whatnot. But look where we are now. Look how ease of access we have everything now. The leaps and bounds with the internet, computers, all the cyber hacking and cyber crimes and smartphones and smart devices, smart homes, smart everything, doorbells, I mean, you name it. You name it. Technology has come leaps and bounds in a period of 16 years. Where how far had it jumped 16 years prior to that? Not too far. It seemed like it was a steady climb. But it didn't just explode like over the last 16 years. Now, is that design? Is that designed to keep you distracted? Is that designed to make sure that you come home and you block out everything and you don't venture outside? It's even got to the point now where you can barely even have a conversation with anybody because they're so glued into texting and social media. That's where everybody gets all their social time. You can barely hang on to a conversation with anybody anymore because people are too dependent on the rise of the technology, especially young people. Young people won't know what the heck I'm talking about, that grew up in this technology age, that don't remember a time before a cell phone or at your fingertips instant gratification of the internet. They'll never understand this. Everything I'm talking about to somebody like that, you might as well just shut this video off. It doesn't register. These young people, and even a lot of adults nowadays, it's very hard for them to interface. Try holding a conversation with somebody anymore. It's almost not going to happen. It's almost like they go into anxiety mode because they have to converse and they can't just text at their convenience and anything else, and they can't just leave a comment when they want to and think about that comment. They actually have to be quick-witted. People I think are the biggest change in this. And I'm a huge, just like anything else that I analyze people. I watch people. And people, I think, are one of the biggest changes. If you ever want to learn anything about people nowadays and you have an observant mind, go to the mall. Go to the mall and just sit there and watch people. And then I want you to think to yourself, as you're in the mall, is pan across to the farthest person that you can see. Look at them and wonder about their observation. Watch the way that they move. Do they move like everybody else that's right next to you? Do they move like a normal person would? Or do you figure that could be a simulated existence of a person so far detached that their only programming is to do exactly what they're doing at that moment? A lot of detail does not have to be put into that person. They can just be whatever their programming is because they're just a filler person, a background person, an extra, if you will, in the movie of this reality. What would happen if you pinpointed them out and then tried to walk the distance and go up to that person and have a conversation? What do you think that would be like? Do you think that person would be able to hold some sort of meaningful, everyday conversation with you? Would they be capable? Would they be just trying to get away from you, giving you the appearance of being crazy, and why would you come talk to them, and all this weird stuff? It wouldn't even have to be kind of an awkward conversation. Hey, how's it going? How are you? Hey, you having a good time? Type of a deal. I think it would be a very short-lived thing. The other thing I was wondering about is if you would actually ever make it to that person from across the mall. Maybe you would blink and that person would disappear because the powers that be knows that you're on a mission to try to go talk to a filler person. Maybe somebody would walk in front of you and block your view of them, and then they would move and you would get back into unrestricted view, and that person would be gone. Much like if you were driving on the freeway and you came upon an overpass, one of those bridges that cross over another road, and you happen to look down at that other road from the bridge and you see a person pushing a shopping cart, or just some person walking. Is that person only there because I observed them and my brain is putting it together that there needs to be a person there? Is that its only role as an extra in this movie that is the simulation? Is his only part in this world to be right there at that time, doing what he's doing, enough time for my car to pass? How much detail would have to go into that person? Well, he doesn't have a speaking role in this movie. He doesn't have anything in this movie. He is just an extra. Something the simulation goes and fills with. Fills in the blanks. What would happen if you stopped your car and you yelled across the bridge to them? What would happen right there at that point? I think it would be probably, an outcome that you probably weren't prepared for. Would there be some sort of glitch? Would they take off running? Or, like I said previously, would the person even be there by the time you parked your car, got out, and even tried to make a mention to them? At that moment of time when you broke eye contact with them, would they have been gone? Because something else knew that you were going to do something. It kind of goes into that physics theory, the slit theory, where something only exists when it's observed. Do these things only exist because our brain manifests them in a way of observance? Do we need to fill in the blanks of every day? Is that something that we have a constant need for? If that in fact is the case, and we do manifest things, how many other things have we manifested? Have we manifested the clouds in the sky and the sun? Have we manifested the birds? Have we manifested everybody? Is everybody a simulation? Is everybody a filler person? And everybody just has different roles in that movie. Some have leading roles and leading parts. Some have lesser parts. And some are just fillers. But what if we manifested everything, our whole existence, all the way down, from every part of our daily life, whether it be our house, our job, our wife, wife, our kids, every little detail all the way down. What if this was your own personal simulation? What if all of this was put together just for you, and you were the only person in this simulation, and everybody else and everything else was just a falsehood? What would that mean? What would that look like? What would you think? What clues would that lead you to? If you could only come to the conclusion after all of these clues that every single thing in this reality is a manifestation, is some sort of simulation, then that means that you would probably be the only real person in this simulation, and everything else has been manifested to give some sort of false representation of it acting real. Taking a reality that we once knew so well, taking it away, jumbling it all up and trying to put it back together with every single detail, but not quite getting it right. Not quite getting it right, but almost close enough. Kind of like if you look at a drawing for about 5 minutes and then you turn your head away and try to recreate that same drawing. It'll be really close, but there'll be little details missing, giving you clues that it's unlike the original drawing. What would have the power to do that? What would have the authority and the power to go ahead and take you out of the reality and place you into this pseudo reality? Another question would be, what would be the purpose? Was there an event? Did something cause a shift, a rebirthing? Did we just slide into a new reality? Did something happen here? What kind of event could have happened so fast that it would cause us, the powers that be, to shift us into this pseudo-reality so quickly that it couldn't get exactly all of the details correct? What could have happened? Did we in fact die? There are a lot of videos on YouTube and other places talking about how we died. And they talk about an event that happened, and it was about 2012. You know, the end of days 2012, the great Mayan apocalypse, the end of the calendar. And then you have a lot of people talking about that calendar really wasn't signifying an end, but it was signifying a rebirthing. Could it be both? Could it have been signifying an end and a rebirthing? Could it have been signifying the event that happened and then our rebirthing into this simulated reality?